Sa kapagtuo, usa ka tingog, usa ka katawhan. Cebu Catholic Television Network.
Maayong gabi kanatong tanan and welcome to our program Partners in Law. This is still brought to us by the Cebu Lady Lawyers Association and the Philippine Earth Justice Center. And for this month, magkuyog na punta for another hour of discussion regarding different environmental laws and other issues surrounding not just here in Cebu but also affecting us here in the Philippines. And for this episode, we're very honored to have with us a very special person, a very good friend. And nasiyay nindot kayo nga discussions regarding the intersect of human rights in terms of our environmental rights. But before we go there, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Attorney Joy Argalion, the Legal and Policy Officer of the Philippine Earth Justice Center, and I will be your host for this evening's episode of Partners in Law. So, this time, ang atong topic will revolve around human rights in the context of environmental rights. And this is a very interesting topic right now, because nagkadako ang discussion not just in the Philippines but also globally regarding environmental rights being considered as human rights. And just very recently, I mean not really recently, but in 2022, there was a UN General Assembly resolution, declaring the right to a sustainable, healthy, safe, and environment was passed by the UNGA resolution. This is something na we want to strengthen in the Philippine context. So, dili na nako dugay-dugayon og introduce ang ato ang guest. Ato ang guest karon is a fellow alumni of the University of Cebu School of Law and also formerly volunteer of the Philippine Earth Justice Center, and now he is connected with the Commission on Human Rights Region 7 as Attorney 5, Attorney Yuvic.
Hi, Joy. Hello, maayong gabi sa atong mga naminaw o nagtanaw karon sa atong programa. Joy, thank you very much for inviting me over. Full circle moment when you come to think of it. As volunteers sa PAJC, I used to participate sa mga naning mga activities, and now we're back after how many years?
Yes, so I'm very happy good na we all started where we started and now we're here. And we're here to discuss very interesting topics. So to speak, atong mga gi-practice nga specialization sa atong balaod. And these are very important topics right now. There is sa atong nasod, and also we share to our televiewers karong gabi una. So I initially mentioned, Attorney, regarding you're from the Commission on Human Rights, and I think it would also be like a good information for our televiewers unsa ang mandate man jud ni CHR.
That's yeah. I used to work for the I work with the commission. I work for the Commission on Human Rights, mo nang gitawag na to karon og CHR, or ang Komisyon sa Karapatang Pantao. It is a government agency, an independent government agency, which is also considered the national human rights institution of the Philippine state in the international nga context sa panlantaw nga international. Siya ang National Human Rights Institution of the Philippines, and as the National Human Rights Institution and as an independent nga government agency, ang Commission on Human Rights mao ang nagtuki, nagtan-aw kung ang mga obligasyon ba sa estado, sa gobyerno, ang iyang bang mga saad paagi sa mga lagda niya, sa iyang saad ngadto sa international community, and iyang mga balaod nga nagduso sa pagproteher, pag-promote sa tawhanong katungod ihabang natuman, ihabang nasubay dili lamang sa pamaagi sa mga balaod nga iyang gipasar but also sa lihok sa iyang mga ahensya o mga personahe, no, ang mga agents of the government, like for example ang kanibang ahensya sa gobyerno nituman ba sa minimum nga requirements sa balaod or sa international nga obligation of the government nga mauni ang dapat subayon ug ni subay ba siya ana, and whether or not if wala siya ni subay aduna ba siya kalapasan sa balaod or unsa pa dihang mga kalapasan nga pwede malili for purposes of holding people accountable. So naiingon ana nga power or obligation si CHR. But more importantly also, sometimes makalimtan po nato, Attorney Joy, that the Commission also has policy advisory functions, which is something that the current Commission is really taking advantage of at the moment kay gipangusga niya ang iyahang obligasyon sa paghatag og mga rekomendasyon kung unsa ba ang sakto or ang mas compliant nga pamaagi sa pagproteher sa specific nga usa ka katungod or sa pag respetar sa usa ka specific nga katungod. So na siya yun ana nga mga policy recommendation or advisory nga mga functions, like for example, quite recently the Commission has been vocal and has been very instrumental also in crafting a Magna Carta for children.
Yes.
No, usa ka balaod nga para mas maklaro nato ang proteksyon sa katungod sa mga bata. Ug ang CHR pod usa sa mga kusganong nagduso sa kitawag nato nga Human Rights Defenders Protection nga bill or proposed ordinances on the local level. So inana ang mga uban pa nga trabaho sa Commission on Human Rights.
Very broad, I would say, because dili raman ta makaingon nga usara ang specific rights, no? Sa mga tao.
Definitely not. Yes.
dili ra ang usa ang main focus gyud sa CHR, and to think na CHR has been working really hard, no, to really ensure nga there is also accountability, especially sa atong mga duty bearers regarding all of our human rights nga naa sa atong Bill of Rights, no, sa atong 1987
And international documents.
Yes, and also
as well.
international commitments nato sa Philippines. And you're with the regional office, attorney. Do we have focus issues
Okay.
On at the regional level?
At the regional level, since we're talking about environmental
Yes.
na aspect, no, I feel like it's also a good information to share. Nga, I used to work for the regional office in Caraga region. I don't work there anymore, but my exposure dito, I mean, we just the Caraga region was hit by Typhoon Odette, right? Dako kay siya og damage nga experience sa Odette and even Cebu, Region 7. And makita sad nato nga nadjud siya ina nga impact ang ang inani nga mga weather nga mga activities nga on human rights. It has grabe ang scale, grabe ang impact as well. And so I could share a little bit of the siguro observations at that time, and how na siya impact on the lives of people, and grabe gid siya ka interrelated. Like for example, di ka gets you at first nimo nga first glance, how is climate change, for example, or kanang mga grabe nga mga disasters, how will that impact the protection of children and women?
Yes.
Apparently there is that na siya usa ka narrative or usa siya ka sentence, whatever, nga naglink siya sa events, and that these events that happen in the environment and weather, for example, have grave impacts or effects sa atuang sa safety, actually, or human dignity, for example. And so muna siya. In terms of Cebu, it's an entirely different yun nga context.
Okay.
When you really think about it. Dako siya kausaban from where I used to work with, and in terms of focus is najud, I wouldn't really say focus nga there was a decision to focus on this,
Yes.
but it just so happened nga daghan og in the past how many years daghang observations of potential daghang observations on arbitrary deprivation of life in the region, arising from various nga mga aspects, Attorney Joy. And so compared to other regions, na siya inana nga pagtutok, no, pag special nga pagsabot sa inani nga mga aspeto also. I think there are also movements or organizations in the region nga calling for comprehensive anti-discrimination because also of the nature of dili in the region na ay makita nga discrimination in education, in the workplace, because also of the nature nga it is a business hub,
Yes.
no, in ana. And then for example, organizations like PJC, no, kusog pud kaayo ang panawagan for environmental accountability and environmental protection, considering that Cebu, not only it being a business hub, it is also home to kanang dagko nga mga tourist spots, and more importantly mga dagko nga mga protected areas, landscapes and seascapes. So ingon ana atong makita nga ang singalan ani nga murag muni ang mga issues nga ako na observe in comparison to other places that I've been to nga dinhi tukion further muni ang mas lian hatagan og energy, and actually rights of persons deprived of liberties too. We have and so far as I am concerned personally, I've observed nga naay mga daghang mga cases involving persons deprived of their liberties and particularly their conditions in the places of detention nga murag na bring up to our attention. And yeah.
Yeah, I think dili ra gyud siya ingon nga kanang focus areas, like I think because of the different circumstances, mga issues nga nahitabo diri sa Cebu. And if I may share also, like we've had a few work work na forward na mo with the CHR engagements, yes. Because some of our community partners have also been, affected by some development projects and some decisions of government agencies which would have an impact on their human rights, especially sa environmental rights.
And how can we forget, of course, women and children protection? Napud tay ubay-ubay nga mga child and women protection issues in the region. Medyo kinalan po siya tutukan, no? Especially in increasing protections for women and children, and even members of other vulnerable sectors as well.
Yeah, and murag in the past few years, we've seen Cebu as or even the region as like a hub or I would say a place nga daghan yung instances of these human rights and other interrelation with other human rights nga mga issues. So I would say that kanang the commission is really a very crucial player in these kinds of enforcement and in ensuring that we strengthen the rights of the different communities, especially the marginalized sectors nga affected by these kinds of things. And so since we're our discussion is more focused on environmental rights, and this is also something that we really rally on when we talk with local governments, with different agencies and other institutions. It's very important to really see if there is an intersection between environmental rights and human rights. And ako, this is something that I've learned in school pa, sa law school pa nato, na we have basic environmental rights under our 1987 Constitution, sections 15 and 16 of Article 2, stating that we have the right to a balanced and healthful ecology and also the right to health of the people. So, and this is also enshrined in the OPOSA Doctrine, stating nga naatay intergenerational responsibility, nga kinahanglan ang pag-protect nato sa atong environment, dili lang dili ra mo stay within our generation na kita ra ang maka-benefit, but also for the present and future generations. So now, because this is a growing trend internationally, globally, kusog ang call to really highlight the importance of environmental rights in the context of the discussion on human rights. So mo nay ganahan nato nga mapangutana, especially with Attorney Yuvik here, sharing with us unsa may mga like different initiatives, and also bisag di pa ta mo talk about the specific initiatives, but in terms of environmental rights vis-a-vis human rights, Attorney, any movement in terms of the Philippines or Philippine context?
Well, when you talk about naabay relationship ang
Yeah.
environmental protection, environmental rights with human rights, definitely.
Yes.
The thing about moingon tag tawhanong katungod or human rights, it's basically it's about being a human being, diba? To be able to enjoy your existence as a human being, like for example, does environmental protection have anything to do with that? It has everything to do with that, no? I think it was the Oposa versus Factoran doctrine nga ningon siya nga it may even predate, no? The right to environment may even predate all other rights because how else mura ganig the environment ensures nga nakapuyo ka in the most optimum environment for a human being to be able to healthily survive and exist. And ang but pasabot is we do have a right to live and nobody has the power or obligation to arbitrarily deprive it from us. But sometimes when we talk about pag magstorya mo gutagtawhan katungod nga mabuhi, ang ato ang pagtan-aw that the violation only exists when naay mo kitil sa atong kinabuhi, naay mo putol. But sometimes naapoy atong makalimtan ba, but that it also has something to do with the quality of life that we nga atong ma-enjoy. And dako kayog impact ang for example, an environment that is not in its optimum state, no, dako kay siya impact or kana epekto sa ato ang pagkabuhi, the quality of life and the quality of health that we enjoy as individuals. As a matter of fact, it's even the cause of so many deaths.
Yes.
No, libuan ka mga nangamatay na tungod sa ingon ani nga grabihan nga mga lihok nga environment. And we cannot really say, diba, of course, Joy, we're not scientists here. I mean, not me, definitely.
Not
Pero,
me.
diba? Pero kanang daghan na kayo og mga researches, studies nga nag-ingon nga ang grabe nga ang kabagsik sa ato ang mga bagyo or unsa pa na diha kanang mga I mean after Yolanda we have the term called storm surge.
Yes.
Right? Correct me if I'm wrong, pero when I was growing up, you don't really know what storm surges are, but after Yolanda, it was something that we have to really consider kanang kinahanglan nata magbantay pod about storm surges. So people are saying ang kabagsik sa ato ang environment and kani nga mga changes, it's kanang mura gani it's unprecedented. Mura gani mo na gid na siyang mahitabo, but the reality is there are researches and studies that would show nga there is a relationship between that and human movement and kanang human activity in the how many years. So napud siya inana nga effect. And the more important thing is because that it may also be anthropogenic in nature, meaning caused by human beings, it's also something that we should work on. And so kung atong tan-awon ang katungod sa kanang atong kinaiyahan, no, as a human right, mas ma-urge ta to really do something about it.
Yes.
Because as opposed to passive imong pagtan-aw nga inana magyud na magbagyo mangyud, but when you agree and when you accept the fact nga kaning ani kabagsik nga mga bagyo, epekto pud ni siya sa atong human activity in years na nag-accumulate ang effect, etc., mas madasig ta nga we have to do something about it, because apparently the things nga atong nabuhat in the past inani di ay ang epekto. So
Compounding effect na siya
right,
in a
no?
sense.
So we're gonna by considering that, my first point is by considering it as a human right, you take accountability for your actions. Nga, okay, so inani siya kay na siya epekto sa atong tawhanong katungod to. And it's also very clear nga wala gyud maglapas-lapas siya baka nang it overlaps.
Yes.
And so for the last how many the commission has also tried to look into that. As a matter of fact, na siya gikanaog nga report during the after the national inquiry on climate change, na siya gipakanaog nga report on the human rights dimension of climate change and climate justice.
Yes.
So naingon na nga aspeto sa CHR, and for in a way the inquiry on climate change did not stop there. I mean, technically it did, but in terms of efforts of the commission to connect the environment, climate justice, climate change with human rights, it has not stopped there, no? I remember in the past in the past year, the commission through its through its Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights Center, and in partnership also with the regional offices, mo reach out siya to civil society organizations and members of the community, and to surface their experiences in terms of ilang mga disasters, or for example, unsay impact ani nga mga kinds of human activities, or unsay inyong na-observe nga changes in the environment or weather, for example, and to surface how that has impacted their lives, no? And the Child Rights Center also na siya yung specific focus. They also conducted a focus group discussion with children specifically on unsay impact sa climate change on children's rights and their enjoyment of their rights as children. And karon lang, di ba, Attorney Joy, makita nato, I mean, when you and I were growing up, we don't normally get, classes do not normally get suspended because of hot weather. It's usually suspended because of storm, bagyo, typhoons, etc. But not hot weather.
Yeah.
So nana po inana nga
Aspect.
something that we have to deal with, and so that has an impact on children's rights too. But we need to surface that because we don't normally talk about that so na yung mga ina nga specifications as well.
It's very important good to discuss about these topics, and I'm very interested because of different sectors are being reached out to, especially kung unsay lang different experiences, and we will hear more about that as we proceed, as we go on with our discussions. But at this point, we'll take a few minutes break. Atong pasalamatan natong mga sponsors. Partners in Law will be right back.
Sorry ma'am, na-late ko. Nangita pa mong gusto para internet sa kong anak ma'am.
Ay, wala na yung problema. Pag-sinisibo!
Sinisibo, sinisibo,
for your internet connection.
and for the signal of your cable TV.
So fast and straight, the transmission to your home.
Sinisibo!
Sinisibo, sinisibo,
Offers you to have fiber optics.
for your viewing experience, perfect and clear, so fast.
So great and affordable for you to enjoy.
Cine Cebu Television Network Incorporated offers fiber to the home broadband internet bundled with fiber to the home cable TV connection. Cine Cebu Television Network Incorporated with its operation in Metro Cebu and the whole province of Cebu soon.
And affordable for you to enjoy.
Sinisibo!
And we're back sa atong programa nga Partners in Law. This is still with the Cebu Lady Lawyers Association and the Philippine Earth Justice Center. And with us is Attorney Yuvic Ferrer of the Commission on Human Rights Regional Office 7. And ganina, before the break, we were talking about, some of the discussions or dimensions nga mag-intersect ang in discussion on environmental rights and human rights. And it's very interesting because isgot man gud ang environmental rights ato man gud usa man gud ana nga aspect or the changing climate we also talk about climate justice in our discussion on environmental rights because it's very important that for people to be able to enjoy their environmental rights, dapat mahatagan na tog hustisya ang ilahang experiences, ang violations of these fundamental rights, and also the destruction of the environment. So important in that discussion is the justice aspect in that in that circle. But based on what Attorney Yuvic mentioned earlier, daghan kaayong reports na ang Commission on Human Rights and many other organizations about how the changes in our climate, the past experiences of Typhoon Yolanda and many other destructive impacts no sa atong communities have an effect on the human rights or the enjoyment of human rights of the different sectors in our society, labi na sa mga kabatanunan, sa mga kababayenan o katong mga nasa poor and marginalized sector sa ato ang society. So very interesting about the NICC, no, the National Inquiry on Climate Change, is that it also highlighted no kanang the different impacts of katong na-mention ni Attorney Yuvik, which are the anthropogenic impacts to climate change, meaning ang mga binuhatan sa mga tao, no, like not just to individual persons but businesses, industries, and specifically in the NICC, it also talked about the carbon majors, no, meaning kadtong mga dagko kayo nga mga industries nga nag-emit og dagkong greenhouse gases, causing all these climate change, ang kainit nga atong na-experience karon, and the drastic atmospheric changes no na atong nasinati dili lang sa Philippines but internationally. But mo to siya no, daghang impacts ang environment, but similar to that discussion no on human rights to affect on women, on children, are also when we talk about human environmental rights, we talk about the people no that defend these environmental rights. And when Attorney Yuvik mentioned earlier no about pagprotektar nato sa katungod sa mga kababayenan o sa mga kabatanunan, I was reminded no nga we currently have a project on women environmental defenders, so amo silang tawgon nga mga we defenders, because mainly no sa atong ako yung makita nato sa atong mga community partners, mga kababayenan gyud ang nasa frontline, sila ang grabe active ang ilahang participation in the protection of their environment, diba? So I'd like to ask siguro Attorney Yuvik no, like where do we asa man nato ibutang ang rights of environmental defenders, and also there are discussions right now on human rights defenders also. So parehara ba na sila, Attorney?
Okay, that's an interesting question, Joy. When you look at the definition, well, the Commission is pushing for what do you call this, the passage of a human rights defenders nga ordinance in the local level, and also proposed bill on human rights defenders in the national level.
Yes.
No, the Commission is thinking na pwede siya simultaneous nga effort nga naapod siya sa local nga levels i-push pod in pilot cities and pilot LGUs and even provinces kung in terms of protection of human rights defenders, especially those operating in their localities, and at the same time pushing also for the passage of a national human rights defenders policy, protection of human rights defenders ng policy. It's quite interesting that the different definition of human rights defenders nga ilahang gisite, if I may read, it refers to any person who individually or in association with others nga ni seek or ni act to promote, protect, or strive for the protection and realization of human rights and fundamental freedoms and welfare of the people. So when you look at it like that, no, the general definition of human rights defenders, I would like to believe nga mahulog po diha ang environmental rights defenders, because I mean we just had a conversation nga environmental rights are human rights, and therefore necessarily when you pwede mo yun ka nga mo defend ka sa katungod sa maayo nga kinaiyahan, in a way you're also protecting or striving for the protection of a specific human right, and consequently aduna siyang epekto sa welfare sa katawhan in the community. So in a general sense, I would assert that environmental rights defenders are considered human rights defenders, but then again the policy is not there yet.
Yes.
No, we should continue to call for such a policy. Pero ako pong pagtanaw, Attorney Joy, I think there is also a nuance to being environmental defenders, environmental rights defenders, because the nuance is also in the nature of opposition that environmental rights defenders face. Like, for example, the level of harassment that they face from non-state parties, right? Particularly from mga private corporations, for example, mga ingon ana. So napod siya inana nga specific nuance, and they're also up against inaani pod nga kanang people or groups nga at naainan ng resources, for example, whereas a lot of environmental rights defenders, particularly even women's environmental rights defenders, are people's organizations that do not really have or enjoy that much resources, no, when you really think about it. And so a protection bill or ordinance or policy would give them that enough leverage for additional protection on their end. Mas naa siguro sila yung nuance nga struggles nga na-experience. All the same, I would consider nga mahupot sila nga defender of human rights, no? But care must be exerted in also surfacing. This is why I keep on saying surfacing, Attorney Joy, because when you fail to surface a nuance of a particular context or a particular experience, you will fail jud pod to recognize that it exists. And when you fail to recognize nga nag-exist na siya nga nuance, you will not provide protections therefore, no? Wala kay ma-offer because wala ko kay balo nga naday na nga problema. So wala ka kay balo that the problem exists, you can't provide a solution. So that's why nga, even if I may consider on a personal level, I may consider environmental rights defenders as kasali sa group of human rights defenders, care should be exerted in surfacing the nuance of the experiences of environmental rights defenders, and even in particular women environmental rights defenders, para mas ma-cover ang protection, mas holistic ang protection given to them.
Yes, because I think if it's just gonna be a general protection, then it wouldn't really answer specific problems that are faced by these specific groups. And I would agree with what Attorney Yuvik said, no, nga ang environmental rights daghang different actors possible nga kanang involved, no. It could be from private interests, different sectors good ang involved. So it's very important really to have that discussion, no. And right now manggod, I think I wouldn't really say that it's just very recently nga daghang discussions about environmental rights defenders, but I think because of dili na siya bag-o nga topic, no, but bag-o lang siya nga nadungog jud siguro kaayo.
I think per me man siguro ma-appeal sa list ang Philippines, if not at the top of the list. It's one of the most dangerous countries for environmental environmental rights defenders. And so when you have that distinction, quote unquote, it's not really something to be proud of when you really think about it. But if kibalo na kaana ba for years now, I mean, it shouldn't be hard to buy into that idea. It means that documented yun ang struggles of environmental rights defenders. And as a matter of fact, a lot of organizations the world treat that the Philippines may be one of the most dangerous areas in the world for environmental rights defenders. So nga kay na nga distinction, quote unquote, or kanina na nga label, for example. So it shouldn't be hard to get behind any policy to extend such protection to environmental rights defenders.
Yes, and unfortunately lang, no, we've learned about kanang Global Witness reports about the Philippines being on top of the dangerous countries for environmental rights defenders, but unfortunately right now we still don't have that bill, no. There was a proposal in the 20th Congress, but until now wala pa gihapon na pasano ang proposal for a bill to protect environmental rights defenders, especially nga daghang nahitabo, no. Very common. I think that's why there's mga usahay ma-mix gyud ang human rights defenders and environmental rights defenders, because I think at some point they have similar experiences, no. Criminalization of their actions is very common for environmental defenders. We have SLAPP suits, although in the Philippine context, SLAPP suits are limited only to environmental defenders. And I've had a discussion with a human rights lawyer also na saying na in other countries it extends, no, dili ra man siya isolated to envi, but in other countries cover siya og different acts. So in the Philippines wala pa na nato, no. So mo na nga murag ang growing trend internationally is kanang wider coverage for SLAP suits. But in the Philippines, sa environmental rights pa na siya. So,
Pero di ba, I think slap suit is a the concept of slap is a remedy or
As
a
a
provision
defense,
under
The
the
rules of
rulemaking
procedure.
power by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So it's not really a product of a statute.
No.
So we're hoping na if there is, after all, a proposed bill and the
Yes.
statute will pass, that concept of a slap suit
Will be integrated. Yes.
and mas wider ang iyang ma-offer nga protection in a way.
For the context or for the benefit of our televiewers, ang atong gi-mention nga SLAP suits, no, or strategic lawsuits against public participation, kani ang mga kaso nga pwede mahitabo sa form of a civil case, a criminal case, or an administrative case against sa mga environmental activists, mga persons nga nag-promote sa atong environmental rights or nag-voice out lang sila sa ilahang concerns about environmental destruction or environmental rights violation, and then filean sila ani nga mga kaso para mahadlok sila, i-threaten sila or i-harass aron dili na sila mo padayon og kanang voice out aning
In
ilang
lay
mga
person's
concerns.
term, no, murag harassment.
Yes,
harassment
harassment
suit
suit,
in a
yes.
way. So ang slap is a mechanism nga mo ingon lang ka nga ipa-dismiss ni because this is a slap.
Yes, no. So usana sa atong ginaduso pud no, kami sa PJC along with different partner organizations nga atong pahingusgan pud nga makahibaw ang mga tao nga there is this
There is
mechanism under the law nga nagprotect nato, and then dili ta dapat mahadlo kay it's very common. I mean, for sure no, kanang for a lay person or a normal person makasuhan ka just because you spoke out or ni oppose ka of a certain environmental activity or environmental destruction, mahadlok ka kung makasuhan ka. So kana nga mechanism na nasa ato ang rules of procedure for environmental cases. So right now napa na siya sa context of environmental laws nato, no, wala pa na siya nagawas ngadto sa other human rights or other balaod nato. So very important also nga kanang moto, as I mentioned, ang similar experiences with human rights and environmental rights defenders, ang criminalization of their actions, and also the threats to their life and security. So
Yeah.
mo na nga importante nga discussion yun nato ang environmental rights as well as how it affects or links to human rights, even if kanang in this context nga very important to have these conversations going para makahibaw ang mga tao nga there are these things happening around us, and very recently daghan kaayot ang mga partners that have been subject of kanang abduction, threats to their lives.
Yeah.
So very important yun to let people know that these things exist and unsay pwede natong mabuhat about that. So I really like katong the initiative of CHR to have a national push at a national level, and also a push for local ordinances for the protection of human rights defenders. And hopefully soon kanang for environmental
Maapil
rights.
ang environmental
Yes.
rights defenders, true.
And so I'd also like to add lang po nga in the context in an international law context nga we had a discussion nga part po sa CHR is that they are interested, they are concerned about our compliance with our international law obligations. Right now wala pa ni siya napasar, but in the ASEAN context we have a proposal also for the ASEAN framework on environmental rights, so which mainly focuses on protecting environmental rights defenders.
Okay.
Yes, environmental rights defenders. This is it took inspiration from the Escazú Agreement nga from the Latin America, which is also under the Global Witness Report, sila ang top countries or nadito ang mga countries that are very dangerous for environmental rights defenders. Kita we're third in the globally, kita ang highest in Asia. Yes. So it basically talks about more on public participation, how environmental rights defenders can actively participate in these kinds of decision-making activities. And also, right to information, which is very important.
Yes.
No, kanang disclosure of these important information, and and lastly, most importantly, ang remedies nga makuha nila from the national courts, not only the Supreme Courts of the different ASEAN countries. Unfortunately, we don't have an Asian counterpart of the European Court of Human Rights just yet, but hopefully with the framework, mahitabo na siya in the future. Hopefully, we're hoping we'll have the same mechanism granting
Regional
rights
level,
at the regional level. So we'll cut our discussion first, no? Balikan na to ato ang discussion regarding environmental rights defenders and how it links with their human rights. Partners in Law will be right back after commercial break.
Sorry ma'am, na-late ko. Nangita pa mong gusto para internet sa kong anak ma'am.
Ay, wala na problema. Pag-sinisibo.
Sinisibo, sinisibo,
For your internet connection,
and for the signal of your cable TV.
so fast and straight that transmission to your home.
Sinisibo.
Sinisibo, sinisibo,
Offers you to have fiber optics.
for your viewing experience, perfect and clear so far.
So great and affordable for you to enjoy.
Cine Cebu Television Network Incorporated offers fiber to the home broadband internet bundled with fiber to the home cable TV connection. Cine Cebu Television Network Incorporated with its operation in Metro Cebu and the whole province of Cebu soon.
And affordable for you to enjoy.
Sinisibo.
And we're back sa atong programa nga Partners in Law. This is still with the Cebu Lady Lawyers Association and the Philippine Earth Justice Center. And earlier, before the break, we had a very interesting discussion about human rights defenders vis-a-vis environmental rights defenders, and unsa nay mga nahitabo, no, murag updates kumbaga on the laws, the proposed bills that have been passed sa House of Representatives, and the different campaigns, no, the clamor from different organizations in order to push for these human rights bills or environmental rights defenders bill, not just at the local level but also at an international international level. So right now, no, we want to ask more about these initiatives, no. Duna by in terms of CHR as the National Human Rights Institute, and also unsa may mga specific programs and projects aside from katong you mentioned earlier about the national push, the policy at a national level and also the local ordinance level, but are there specific projects or initiatives that are currently going on in terms of these discussions, attorney?
Oh, well, maybe aside from that, Joy, no, murag dili gyud kay ko kahatag og full
Yes.
nga murag plano say plans sa
Sorry.
central office.
Wala na ko napadaan. Ang plan.
We have a dedicated magud nga center na dealing with environmental issues and any and all nga murag masulod sa umbrella of economic, social, and cultural rights, because we do have a Economic, Social, and Cultural ESCR Center at the central office, and they're mostly on policy work yun sila, no? And they're the ones nga murag sila yata ang nagkandak og mga various forms of focus group discussions, learning sessions, and mga listening sessions also with organizations, with the people in the community, and with duty bearers as well, no. Murag na sila inana nga efforts to triangulate also what government duty bearers are saying vis-a-vis that being those that are being enjoyed or accessible to members in the community, and also for the community, people in the community to be able to express or
Like
share
dialogue.
the dialogue
Yes.
to bring up some of the issues nga ilang na experience. So sila gyud ang nakatutok ana for the regional offices, particularly in Region 7, kasi nga murag what CHR is trying to do right now, mag-identify siya pilot areas in anay na gani. But for Region 7 dito we're trying to get local local legislators on board in terms of the human rights defenders ng ordinance. Really, it's something actually naanap we gikanaog nga usa sa in a way nga if we are to conduct dialogues with local legislators, these are some of the local legislative efforts nga atong priority or atong agenda for the provided nga period of time, and one of which is the human rights defenders nga ordinance. I think I can count with my two hands lang the number of, if not one hand, the number of LGUs nga naa na siya, no? I mean, the approved na siya, signed by their local executives. But siguro mulapas na pud og 5 ang number of LGUs where pending ang discussion, meaning a draft has already been filed. In this week, when this week? Middle of the week. Was it this week? We will be engaging, conversing with local government legislators and talk to them about the efforts nga we hope we can inyuhang buhaton, no, on a local level. But it's important lang pud nga ma-remember nga because of the policy function of CHR, it's not enough for us nga moingon lang uy buhatan na.
Yes.
No, it's very important also, and sometimes we a lot dili kay ni makuan, but we actually do help in the process, in the consultation, in reviewing even the ordinance and policies, for example. Pwede gid kay mi mo assist. So it's not just enough nga moingon mi nga uy buhatan na or disad hoy no. Hi. Respectfully, can I convince you to do this or pass this nga human rights based nga legislation or policy? But it's very also important for us to be able to have a seat at the table, or at least to kanang nami part sa process ba. So willing pud mi muhatag ana nga service or assistance, for example. Before I left Caraga region, I remember also katong yung mention nimo nga mga listening and mga dialogue nga mga sessions. The goal ultimately is really policy, jud pod. Because if ma-discover nimo, for example, on children nga inani ang impact on education, on the rights of children by climate related nga mga disasters, what must we do now? Because na siya inani nga impact on the right of education, na siya inani nga impact on the health of children. What must we do now as government, as duty bearers? Because it is our duty to protect the right to education, to respect and provide the right to education, and it's also our duty to protect and respect the right to health. Granted, nga kani nga mga experiences ang na-experience sa mga bata, how must we solve this now? How must we treat these issues now para compliant gihapon ta sa atong mandate sa pagproteher o respetar sa katungod sa bata nga maka-eskwela o nga maayo ang iyahang kalawasan, for example. So ingon ana always ang perspective, no? Muni ang issue, does this have an impact sa iyang tawhanong katungod, and how unsa man dayon atong buhaton to improve that situation kay nagud siya impact sa iyang tawhanong katungod. So kasagaran sa mga sessions inana gyud siya ang framework nga gi-follow, and so we do a lot of those kinds of sessions and dialogues to surface and bring about potential change, or at least mechanisms for remedies, for example. So ingon ana, I'm not really sure exactly what's next after the NICC report.
Yes.
But as far as I know, there's also an effort now to continue with community engagements as well. Kay napagihapoy mga communities nga gusto pud gihapon storyaon, no, in as regards the impact of climate change to these communities and particular sectors, for example. Kay lahi-lahi man gyud siya effect to different types of people, Attorney Joy. I mean, climate-related nga mga disasters have a very different impact to people living in the mountains than
Yes.
those in coastal areas and those in the urban regions. And it also varies depending on sex and even on disability and age.
Yes.
No? The Commission is also very active in reminding kanaan mong advisories, human rights advisories. Nga. For example, I remember when COVID hit, so ang atong response to COVID was very more or less generic in nature, that sometimes we forget about the gender aspect of relief and assistance.
Yes.
That there's a gender aspect to it all, and sometimes makalimtan na nato siya. No, so there's always a reminder nga please consider also the GAD aspect, the gender and development aspect, and even the child aspect and the PWD aspect when you provide relief or help. And that was also very crucial during Odette. I remember, Attorney Joy, nga we constantly provided advisories nga in managing your what do you call that, evacuation centers. There must also be effort to ensure that the people who live or who continue to stay in these evacuation centers are safe from potential gender-based violence, and that naagyapoy ma-maintain nga dignity ba while living in these evacuation centers. So I'm saying these kaninga mga istorya because it's also part of the duty gyud of the Commission. Nga in those moments nga naa siya inana nga, for example na ay disaster nga mohit, or for example na ay na yung mga kakulian, like kanang mga aggressions nga nahitabo, no, in relation to utilization and exploitation of resources. It's also just as important nga in how it's really the duty of CHR also to tell government and to tell duty bearers nga, this is the problem and this is your response. Does this consider also the very specific nga positionalities of certain sectors? So usa pud da sa padayon nga gi-push pod ni CHR in a general sense, no, iya pud nang lilion, and as much as it can, no, iyang muhatag siya sa iyang opinion or iyang advice on that. So it's an entirely different issue if paminawon ba ang advice, but nevertheless it's really one of those things that we also look into. Aside from katong legislations or pieces of legislations, but yeah.
Yeah,
Well, of course, sorry. Sorry for the interruption.
Go.
Of course, kanang mga usual part sa amo ang the general service. The conduct of investigation for human rights violations, especially those faced by people in the communities or even environmental rights defenders. If, like, for example, they have experienced any threats to their liberty, security, and even their life, no? Anyway, kana. And then, for example, vilification. Like, just because you're an environmental rights defender, sultian, tawagon kag unsa na lang ang mga kuan, right? And sometimes there are labels that are very dangerous.
Yes.
There are labels when it hit you, or when you're labeled like this and like that. Sometimes that would be very dangerous, and not a lot of people appreciate that. How labels can be very dangerous to people, particularly those nga naigidala nga kausa, like
Yeah.
PJC, for example, or your partners in the communities. There are labels that could be very dangerous to you guys or to your organizations, even to CHR po, no, nana. And not a lot of people appreciate how labels can be very dangerous, but they are potentially dangerous. And so CHR is also, well, at least sa among level sa legal division, we're also trying to based on the cases that we've handled, Attorney Joy, amo pong gilili kung naa ba existing pattern. And is the pattern not answered by a correlative mechanism or remedy? So naapod mi gilili ngayon nga aspect. Not really murag in-depth, but kanang cursory observation tanaw na to kung naabay ingon ana gyud nga klaro nga pattern based on documented cases. And we're also thinking, at least on our end sa among division, nga of telling the central office nga, you know what, this exists, at least here, kani nga pattern, whatever that pattern is. And then kani nga pattern, it has resulted to this, which is a violation of human rights. So dapat na siya tubagon, for example, or pangitaan siya paagi, provided ang remedy or mechanism. So again, it's a policy shift or change. So kana nga kung unsay mahuna-hunaan taman sa makaya.
Because I was gonna ask, no, regarding, we hear about, you mentioned already about the labeling,
Yeah.
all these threats.
Yes.
So, is there, how can the public reach out to CHR? And, are there any specific processes that they have to go through?
Yeah. We do have a a generic rules or procedure nga in terms of handling certain cases, and the labeling, or well, in a sense, the red tagging, Joy.
Yes.
Let's call a spade a spade. But kana mga inana nga mga kuan, they do have, well, in my opinion at least, they do have an impact on your right to security.
Yes.
We've heard a lot of cases nga if wala nakalitlag ka priso, either napatay or nawala, no, after siya na red tag or whatever. Datay mga inana nga mga madunggan nga mga cases, no. And naman po kaso sa CHR, sa among office in relation to that. What's important for us right now is that these are documented. As what I've said, that these are documented so that we are able to identify if these patterns exist, because that can aid in pushing for a policy, a mechanism to address that. Okay, I mean, masige mong, di ba, in addressing the policy, my personal opinion is, while there is no specific crime of red tagging, everybody has a right to be presumed innocent. And I think that should be good enough for all of us. So, but that's my personal opinion. So, kung kulangan pag yun di ay ang existing policy, that should be changed. There should be mechanisms to prove that. And mopud na siya ang usa sa flexibility also of what I personally think is a flexibility on the part of the of at least of the position that I take, is that dili lamang siya legal from a legal perspective, but it could also be policy influencing. It could influence policy. Because makita niyo nga, there is no legal remedy. You do not stop there. Sometimes we think there is no legal remedy, dismiss the case,
Yes.
or give up or whatever. But no, the absence of a legal remedy opens an opportunity for policy change. And that's what I think is the flexibility that I love about the position that we are in as a commission, because we don't just stop there. There is no remedy. No, and then we pivot to pushing for availability of a particular remedy. Kay imo man ang na-discover nga issue. And that's part of your job, di ba, as a human rights institution. Nga na ay na-discover nga issue that impacts human rights, there is no legal remedy yet, so you pivot to creating one, or pushing for the creation of one. Because you always go back, ensure the protection, respect, and promotion of human rights. So in a way, muna siyang something I enjoy thinking of, kay you don't stop at there's no legal remedy. You pivot to, okay, what else can be done? How do we creatively address this? And I'm sure PJC is also doing that.
And we're very grateful that we have people in the institution
Sure.
that like Attorney Yuvic, that really pushes, no, murag, I think this is something na like we share probably na nang we just don't stop, like we try to move mountains in order to make
Not
it
in a way
policy.
that would destroy the
Yes.
mountain, Joy.
Yes, not environmental destructive, but we really try to achieve the optimum protection of the environmental rights, human rights of every individual. So that we're very grateful that we have advocates. Advocacy is really crucial also in the work that we do, and we just don't stop by the legal remedies. We also have meta legal remedies like policy, campaigns, etc. And so final message to murag nahutdan na tag time, but final message to our televiewers, Attorney, especially to our televiewers, the youth are probably watching, how they can engage with all these activities of the CHR.
I think it was brought up a couple of times, the concept of public participation in the discussion, no, before tanahuman.
Yes.
Grabe na raise ang concept of public participation, and I think that's very important for accountability. There are so many elements of good governance, one of which is public participation, and I mean, we don't have time to discuss the connection between good governance and human rights,
Yes.
Attorney Joy. But aani lang ha, the government exists for you, for the youth. No, I think I remember I was asked to speak for youth leaders, and I think ang akong message was maybe it's time we also shift how we see our relationship with our government is, and look at it from the perspective nga kanang why are we worried what they think of us? They should be worried about what we think of them, no? From a
Yes.
perspective of a civilian nga member of the youth, no? We have to take back governance in a sense nga kanang you are not just recipients of decisions and then that's it for you. I think we have to change our view of how decisions in governments are made and get back whatever power the Constitution has left for us and really identify areas for public participation. Maybe it be in the schools. We all did start in our schools, mga organizations, Joy. Or in civil society, out of school ng mga organizations. Kana. In terms of engaging with the... I hope makita na siya nga effort, no? Nga maybe atong kailangan i-shift ang perspective. Nga dili ta magpadaog, nga mo na ni siya, kay mo na siya ang nadesisyonan.
Yes.
So yeah, I hope nga na siya inana nga shift. And well, it comes necessarily empowerment is an important step towards that direction, and part of empowerment also knowing your human rights. And so pwede gud kayo mo engage with the commission, Attorney Joy. No, we're very willing to also
Social
conduct
media, attorney?
Commission on Human Rights Central Visayas Region, I think ang among social media page, and we have just reactivated it. And
Yes,
so
I
medyo,
know. I follow si Asia.
Di ba? And medyo daghan na og mga posts dito, and by that meaning naanap po yung mag-atiman sa messages if ever na imo chat.
Yes.
No, but that's
So they
not...
can send messages?
Yes, they can. Or they can also send an email. Makitaan ra pod na siya sa amo ang cover page. I'm sorry, I can't memorize pag yun among mga everything, but na siya sa cover page. Nara gyud po dito sa among Commission on Human Rights Central Visayas Region nga Facebook page, Attorney Joy. So pwede na buhaton, and for conduct of advocacy, etc. And also for legal consultation sometimes. We also provide that.
Yes. Thank you so much, Attorney Yuvik Ferrer,
course. You're welcome.
for
And thank you.
joining us in this discussion. I would echo the same message ni Attorney Yuvik, especially on public participation, because this is something that we've always been telling our partner communities, and also the importance of education and sharing these kinds of information, get the conversation going so that people would know. Dili lang pod kung silang madunggan, but they also try to look into, research it, and talk about it with their peers para dili lang kita-kita nasa environmental advocacy or human rights advocacy and a few people in the circle that are constantly talking about these issues, but also everyone, mga nanay nato, our youth, everyone, our televiewers would be talking about it, and hopefully, our duty bearers, our policymakers hear our voice, because again, important gisulti na Attorney Yuvik that the people, we have to take back the power, and also because again, at the end of the day, we are at the receiving end of these policies, so we have to take part in the decision making and in the policy making aspect. So also for Philippine Earth Justice Center, you can contact us on our Facebook page. It's Philippine Earth Justice Center Incorporated, at PJC_official on Instagram and on Twitter. And lastly, you can, for our televiewers nga wala nakakita og previous episodes, there are a lot of episodes on Partners in Law, not just talking about the environment, but also women's rights, labor rights, children's rights. So you can like and subscribe the Partners in Law Celia YouTube account. So you can see there, pwede ninyo makita ang past episodes discussing different issues on laws and updates on jurisprudence. So, daghan kaayong salamat, Attorney Yuvik, again, and to our televiewers, we're very happy. Nakulangan ta sa ato ang oras sa discussion, but I hope nga namin mga napupo nga very important topics, and I hope that we'll see you again in our discussion next month. This is Partners in Law. Daghang salamat ug maayong gabi.